left side or the right side, then it must be the FinSide. It ain't the left side.
Thank you, Solo D. Welcome to another episode of On the FinSide. Here with Brian Catanzaro and Paul Picken. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, iTunes, and on YouTube. We're not hard to find. And now there's really reasons to come back and talk Miami Dolphins football. It has been 36 days since the Miami Dolphins have lost a football game. They've won their fourth straight in a row. Against the San Diego Chargers by the score of 31-24. Definitely made it an interesting game. 4 interceptions in the fourth quarter. The big one, a 60-yard interception return for touchdown by Kiko Alonso that put the Dolphins ahead with a minute left to play. Paul, the Dolphins definitely don't make it easy on us, huh?
No, it's God, what are we going to talk about today? Like winning. It's so old, doesn't it?
No, it sure does. No, and actually never gets old. Never gets old. And now when you look at it, so here the Dolphins are at 5-4, which would have seemed crazy talk when the Dolphins were 1-4 after a crushing loss to the Titans. Then we look ahead at our schedule. We see the Steelers, we see the Bills, we see the Chargers. Man, oh man, to be 5-4. Now you look at the Dolphins' next 2 games. You're going to be favored. Right now you're favored by a point over the LA Rams at LA, and then you've got the 49ers at home, might be one of the worst teams in the league. Dolphins could be talking about a 6-game winning streak here. Kudos to Adam Gase and how he's really gotten this team riled up here following a 1-4 start. Paul, let's take a look here at a few different positions as we go through, which will lend itself to the rest of our conversation. Quarterback position, Ryan Tannehill, very strong game under center.
Yeah, he had, I think, a 130.6 rating, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns. Really should have had a completion deep to Devontae Parker. But, the officials had to call a pretty weak holding call. It was holding, I will say that. But when I look at what happens to Cam Wake play in and play out, it sure didn't count as holding to me compared to that. So, I mean, he could have easily been right at that 300-yard mark. Definitely a huge, strong day from Tannehill. I can't give him anything less than an A here.
Yeah, definitely a strong game. I mean, throwing the ball short, throwing the ball deep. I mean, 39-yard touchdown to Kenny Stills to put the Dolphins up 14-10. Beautiful throw, beautiful play action. Devontae Parker, them two were finally on the same page. He made the throws when he needed to, and he stood in the pocket when he had to as well. I'm going to give him an A-. His stats weren't jaw-dropping, 17 for 24, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns. Great stats. I'll save the A or the A+ for another day. Running back position, Paul. Jay Ajayi didn't quite have that monstrous performance that we've expected over the last 3 weeks. How do you grade this spot?
I actually give the running back position a very high B+ here. And I know they weren't statistical monsters, but when it came down to the second half, Jay Ajayi had some critical runs. And then you look at Damian Williams, who came in, had 3 touches in the game, both in receiving and running the ball. Ends up with 2 touchdowns, putting 14 points on the board for the Dolphins there. And really, they did everything that was asked of them. And, yeah, there's going to be games where he doesn't get 100 yards. I hate to break the folks. It's going to happen. He was going up against the 5th best run defense in the NFL going into this week. So it's not like the Chargers are slouches against the run, and he made the runs when it counted. So B+ for me.
Yeah, I mean, Jay Ajayi, 19 carries for 79 yards. We're still talking about, just over 4 yards a carry against one of the best run defenses in the league. You look at the Dolphins running back spot in general, which we just assumed was going to be a trouble spot for them heading into this year. At least I did. Our top 3 backs combined, Ajayi, Damian Williams, and Kenyon Drake, have combined for 166 carries, 897 yards, 13 touchdowns, 5.4 yards a carry. Who would have seen that coming? Looking at this game, Damian Williams, he continues to grow on me. I mean, he's not dominant in one area, but he helps in the passing game. A great catch against Kyle Emanuel for a big 18-yard touchdown. Also, another 2-yard touchdown as well. The guy's got 5 touchdowns on the year. And Ajayi, I think you said it best, Paul. He got caught for a lot of losses, but he made a big 40-yard run that made a huge difference in the game and was still very, very tough running the ball inside when it mattered. I'll give the running back position a B. Receiver, I got to say, at tight end, I'm more and more impressed with Marquise Gray every week. Hey, you know what? Catch 3 passes for 20 yards. That's perfectly fine. Blocks really well, gives us kind of that 6 offensive linemen to go with our other 5, and goes out and catches a few passes when it matters. When you look at the rest of the receiving unit, Devontae Parker, obviously, big breakout game, 5 catches for 103 yards. Not only that, but I saw a player that wasn't affected by his hamstring. It looked like he just had a completely different gear in this contest, and not a surprise, it's the first time he hasn't been questionable on the injury report in a long time. Jarvis Landry, 6 catches for 53 yards, including a big one at the beginning of the second half, that put the Dolphins in field goal range, set him up for a Damian Williams touchdown. Kenny Stills catches a long touchdown. Would like to see Leonte Carew get a little bit more involved. But, Paul, overall, I'm going to give this receiver unit an A-.
Yeah, for me, I am going to go with a B+ as well, even though, my heart's telling me I want to go in that A range. Devontae Parker actually looked motivated in this game, which is something we haven't seen from him on a play-in, play-out basis yet this year or even last year, which was great to see. He very easily, given the play that I referenced before, could have been sitting right around 6 catches for 150 yards in this contest, which, holy crap. Talk about having a little bit of a breakout party, and kudos to you for calling that last week. I know a lot of people have said that they thought it was kind of a pedestrian day from Landry. You know what? I'll take a pedestrian day where the guy has 6 catches for 53 yards, and several of those catches were difference-making catches in the game. Good for him. That's a hell of a pedestrian day right there. And it's kind of funny. You mentioned the tight ends. I've been excited about watching Gray catch the ball and get out there, and when he gets his number called, typically he's made the play since really getting into the lineup. And who'd have thought at the beginning of the season that we'd feel it was an effective day from the tight end position when we get 2 catches for 18 yards. But that's the position that guys like Jordan Cameron put us in, where it's like, holy crap, our tight end caught the ball. But no, in all seriousness, I do like what I see out of Gray. I like what I see out of Dominique Jones when he gets in there. And I'm excited to see that Deion Sims is right there on the cusp of getting some time again, because I think having those 3 mix it up a bit could be something that has a positive effect for this offense and adds another dimension to the effective running game that they've got, as well as the receiving game. Would I like to see Grant and Carew get in there more? Absolutely. But, hey, it's when these guys are having an effective day, I'm all right with this. They were a part of Tannehill getting his 130.6 rating in this game, so good for them.
Definitely. It was finally we see the receiving unit come together, and yeah, like you said, Paul, a long catch from Parker was also called back on a ticky-tacky penalty. Not to mention, would have brought him to 6 for 150. Not to mention, Parker was tripped up twice, barely. Otherwise, he would have definitely taken those other passes to the house. Yeah, very exciting to see, because I've said it for the last few weeks now. If there's a player on offense that's going to put the Dolphins over the top, it's going to be Devontae Parker. And I think we saw what kind of impact he can bring with his physical skills. The offensive line, Paul, Brandon Albert gets hurt, actually pops his arm back into place, continues playing. Just a gutsy performance by him. How would you grade the offensive line?
The offensive line, I'm giving a solid A. They let Ajayi run for, like you said, just over 4 yards of carry against one of the best run defenses in the NFL. They kept Tannehill clean most of the game. And, even when Albert went out for a few plays, Craig Urbick comes in. We see Laramie Tunsil slide out to left tackle, and Tunsil was great at left tackle. And Albert let up 1 sack that was pretty brutal. Guy got a great jump against him. And then, there's the ticky-tack holding call on Juwan James, which I don't even want to get started on the officials in this game, because this really was a brutal game in terms of the officiating department. Congratulations to that officiating crew. You may have lost your shot at the playoffs now, but, good for you guys. Calling an ineffective game at the very least, we'll go with. But overall, I thought they did a very solid job and continued to build upon what we've seen over the past month and a half. Now that they've got all their starters healthy, and even when they've had to call in their depth here, it's great to see after so many years of trying to see this offensive line come together.
Yeah, offensive line did a very good job. Not a whole lot of holes in the running game created. I mean, Jay Ajayi, 40 of his 79 yards were on one carry. I'll argue Ajayi was pretty tough in getting the rest of those. Not a whole lot in terms of run blocking, but they were also stocking up at the line too. Yeah, Tannehill got sacked once early in the game by Melvin Ingram. Joey Bosa very quiet in this contest. You look at the offensive line. Juwan James, to me, continues to play better. Pouncey had a great game. Tunzel played well, whether he was a left guard or left tackle. I'll give this unit a B+. Defensive line. Yeah, I tell you what, Cameron Wake, I got to say, I was one person who was not in favor of him coming back this year at his salary and at his age as a third down pass rusher. I was definitely wrong on that. He gets his 6th and 7th sack of the year. And I'll tell you what, it is huge that with the amount of poor right tackles the Dolphins have on their schedule, Cameron Wake can single-handedly ruin some drives. Andre Branch at the other defensive end spot. I think this is a player the Dolphins have on a 1 year, $2 million contract, and it was a prove-it deal. And to me, they need to re-sign this guy as soon as possible. He has proven himself to me at this point. Mario Williams played pretty well in his limited role, only had 27 snaps. Jason Jones played pretty well as a run-stopping DN2, and Ndamukong Suh was a monster. Jordan Phillips and Ndamukong Suh combined really have the ability to push that pocket forward. And I'll tell you what, Earl Mitchell looked like the player at defensive tackle, Paul, that we envisioned when he was signed in 2014. Overall, I think this unit did a fantastic job. I'm going to give them an A.
Yeah, A+ for me. I really think this unit was indirectly, at least in part, responsible for Phillip Rivers essentially turning into a chuck and duck in the fourth quarter. They may have only had 4 sacks in this game, which is funny to say, may have only, but they really were in his face all day long. And Earl Mitchell, like you said, the play where he just submarined Melvin there at, the 4-yard line when it was, on the 1 initially, completely ran over the left guard and destroyed the play in the backfield with the left guard riding him like a backpack. That was very indicative of what we saw all day. Ndamukong Suh getting in there and just stuffing Melvin again for loss after loss throughout the contest, taking on multiple blockers and really just being a dominant force, even though it doesn't show up huge on the stat sheet. And just looking at everybody along the defensive line, the impacts they had throughout the game, it's easily an A+, absolutely a strength. And I think the secondary and Kiko Alonso should be taking those guys out to dinner, because Phillip Rivers was getting wildly inaccurate in that fourth quarter, especially after getting bludgeoned all game long.
And I love it too. Well said. And I love it how this defense is playing very contained in terms of how they're rushing the quarterback. Again, going back to Kevin Coyle, you could see from 6 miles away that he was going to blitz. And if I could see it, you bet opposing quarterbacks could see it too. They put a lot of money into this defensive line, and they're starting to really see the return on investment for that. I mean, again, you've got a lot of bad offensive lines that the Dolphins have played, and they'll continue to play over these remaining 6 games. The linebacker spot, Paul, Kiko Alonso obviously made headlines with the 60-yard touchdown with a minute left. Well, I tell you what, one of the best plays I've ever seen out of a linebacker when you look at the entire play. There he is in the middle, look to stop the run, moves over and takes the slot receiver, follows the slot receiver up the field, hands it off to the safety, then undercuts the tight end, takes it all the way back 60 yards, and outruns wide receivers to do it. Man, oh man, what a play! And I'll tell you what, I really like Neville Hewitt more and more every week. Jelani Jenkins had one of probably his best game of the year, which isn't saying a whole heck of a lot. But overall, I like this unit. Capitalized by the Kiko Alonso play. I'm going to go ahead and give them I'm going to give them an A-. What about you, Paul?
Yeah, there were a couple of things from Butler I saw in this game where he lost contain. There were a couple of scheme aspects. One thing that I would like to see from the linebacker position, this really comes down to coaching, is periodically you see Miami blitzing themselves out of the play. And we saw it with a pretty decent run by Melvin Gordon in the first half when they blitzed Kiko through the guard center gap, and they blitzed, I believe, Jenkins through the guard tackle gap, and the run was through the other guard center gap. And with the wide 9, that just leaves a big gaping ass hole in the middle of the field if you don't blitz into the right hole. And Chargers made him pay a little bit. But I will say the Kiko play, we were watching that the whole way through and saw some of that coming. And one thing I want to say about the Kiko play, if you watch it back, you mentioned him outrunning the wide receivers. Bobby McCain had hauled ass down the field trying to basically peel off the wide receiver that was immediately trailing Kiko, and got grabbed from behind by I think it was an offensive lineman or a tight end, and essentially yanked back so he couldn't make the blocks, hoping that the wide receiver could catch him. And Kiko just cut across the field, then really ran away from that wide receiver anyway. So kudos to Bobby McCain, who had a few rough moments in the game, for trying to help out with that. But yeah, for me, it's a very, very solid A here. Jelani Jenkins actually threw some thumps onto people, which is something we haven't seen from him in a really long time, if ever, on top of really being all over the field. So an A for me, but they need to do a little better job of containing and scheming those blitzes to not leave as big of gaps across the field.
Yeah, Donald Butler is one that has not impressed me all that much. It seems like every time there is a big run that's let up, it's over Donald Butler. And I don't see enough big plays out of him to make up for it. Defensive back, definitely an interesting game. There were periods in this game where I was cursing Tony Lippett and Bobby McCain and Byron Maxwell. Obviously, they pulled it together here in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're still playing Lippett a little too far off the ball, which I think leads to, I know they're trying to protect him with that a little bit, but I think it leads to some overcompensation from him at times, and I think that plays into things for him. They do need to continue to move him a little closer to the ball, feast or famine-wise, they just do. And yeah, Bobby McCain had some rough moments, but I still continue to like him. We knew what we have in Bobby McCain, which is he's a player that's going to take some chances. He's going to have some flubs, and he's going to have some outstanding plays. And we have to take the good with the bad with him. Byron Maxwell, I thought, had a very good game. Bakari Rambo, good God. I know he broke up 2 passes on that first drive, but after that, he was abysmal. I never thought I'd be saying I want to see Michael Thomas on the field more, but I want to see Michael Thomas on the field more if it gets Bakari Rambo off the field. He just brutal. He was out of position, both in the passing game and the running game. He missed on a bunch of tackles so badly that you almost didn't realize that he missed out on it because he was so far out of the play because he removed himself. This is a guy that I had some excitement about from some plays I saw last week, and I can kind of understand why he was a free agent for Miami to just pick up based on some plays I saw this week. He's really got to get his head in the game and get with the scheme, or Miami needs to play around with Akins and Thomas again back there next to Issa. I thought Issa had a decent game, but again, it's Rambo was the weak link to me in the secondary, not Bobby McCain and not Tony Lippett. Lippett's going to have his growing pains, and McCain's going to have his feast or famine moments.
Yeah, Rambo did struggle back there a couple of times. Right there with you on that. Yeah, and it was interesting, too. Rambo played, I think, 54 snaps, and Michael Thomas played 26. So that was a little perplexing to see because I thought, Michael Thomas, I've always liked him more than you, but I think Thomas has been playing better and better every week ever since he's taken over for Rashad Jones at that spot. Yeah, at defensive back, Lippett does give up a lot of cushion, and I think it's part scheme, and I think it's part his body type too. He is a long, lanky player. As a result, it takes him longer to turn and run with somebody. So that leads to a lot of those 10-yard sideline completions. McCain is very, very feast or famine, and it was a lot more famine in this game. But hey, Tony Lippett, first 2 career interceptions, and they were big ones. And a cornerback, Byron Maxwell, even though he makes me uneasy, he looks sloppy, he looks like he's running on stilts a lot. Last 4 games, he's in totality pulled together some very good football games. I think he grabs too much. He makes me a little uncomfortable, but again, he definitely gets positive grades overall in this one too. So at defensive back, I'm going to give this unit a B+, mostly for the turnovers, and they pulled it together when they needed to, even though they did end up giving a lot of big yards and big completions up here to Phillip Rivers. Special teams, Paul.
Well, this was a unit that was all over the map. Coverage units were good in terms of punt coverage. Kickoff coverage was good. Franks did a decent job on kickoffs. Didn't have any egregious mistakes that we saw earlier in the year in terms of field goals or extra points. And Matt Darr had a good day. But then you look at Jakeem Grant, who I love. I was excited about this pick out of the draft. I was excited about this kid after last week. Then after his punt return earlier in the year, I think he muffed that first punt and then got in his own head and pressed a little bit too hard. And he was putting balls on the turf throughout the game. He's got to find a way to forget the bad and really stick with the good and move forward from there and not let that interfere with his play, because Miami cannot afford to have some of the mistakes that he made in this game. And he's got to secure the ball, or as explosive as he is, Miami may have to move on from him if he can't get out of his own head there. It's a B for me, and just unfortunately, Jakeem drags it down, even though we saw some stellar play from some other areas.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a B too. And, to even go further on Jakeem Grant, I'll tell you what, I've been not too happy with Grant over the last couple of games. And even though it might sound crazy, I mean, ever since his, a return touchdown, and he should have had a return touchdown last game, that was a ticky-tack call, but I've always said this about kick returners, is your first job is to catch the football and not create negative plays for your team. And Grant has done that now 3-4 times in the last 3 games. That's not good, and I hope it doesn't continue. I mean, I will take a returner who gets the ball, gets as many yards as he can, and catches the football and doesn't fumble, than somebody who provides a lot of big plays but also fumbles a lot. So hopefully Grant turns it around here, and he does well, because other than that, the special teams unit I thought was fantastic. Matt Darr, his first 4 punts, I'm pretty sure that he had an average net of about 55, which is stunning. And then Andrew Franks puts the ball at the end zone, nails his kicks, doesn't miss any, and then the special teams coverage unit did a great job. So other than the Jakeem Grant fumble, I'm with you, Paul, takes the grade from an A down to a B. Luckily, it didn't cost them the game, but if you fumble punts, it's going to cost you one eventually. How about your stud of this game, Paul?
God, can you give it to anybody but Kiko Alonso, despite some of the stellar play by guys like Parker and guys like Tannehill? I can't give it to anybody but Kiko after that amazing interception return and what led up to it throughout the play, as you were talking about. I mean, the fact that he started out over, dropped out to cover a slot, came off the slot to undercut a route to a tight end. Holy crap. And he was all over the field before that anyhow. So, yeah, Kiko wins this in a landslide for me, despite some great play by other players.
Yeah, this is hard to pick this week. I mean, you can go with Tannehill, you can Devontae Parker, Cameron Wake. I mean, you can give it to 5 or 6 different people. I'm going to give mine to Cameron Wake. I think he really set the tone up front all game, and that forced Phillip Rivers to be very uneasy. I think 2 sacks very easily could have been 3 or 4. And yeah, I'm with you on the referees too. I'm not somebody, I can't remember one time in the show in 6 years that I've complained about refs. I think it's petty. I think calls go either way a lot, but it was embarrassing. I mean, and the measuring stick on that, Coney's Corner, who's a good friend of mine who used to be on Twitter, isn't anymore, but Anytime I would complain to him about any call or refs, he would never have it. He texted me during the game and said, I never complain about refs, and this is absolutely embarrassing. And it was. So hopefully they get it together next week. Paul, who's your dud of the game?
Unfortunately, I think I've already given this one away. It's Jakeem Grant. I think he fumbled, 3 times between punts and kickoffs. One of them may not have even counted it officially because he picked the ball back up and downed it in the end zone. But he had a rough day, a really rough day. And those are plays that could have completely cost this team in terms of field position. I know Bobby McCain had some rough plays. A couple of those I actually attribute to some of the problems that Rambo had in the secondary because he wasn't given the coverage over the top where he should have been. But Jakeem Grant could have turned the ball over like crazy in this game, and that's just unacceptable. So it's got to be a dud for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm with you on Grant. I mean, he definitely would have been mine too, but because we don't pick the same one, I'm going to go with, it's kind of hard to come up with a number 2. I'm going to go with Donald Butler. Again, I think that anytime there's a big gaffe in the defense, whether it's against the run or against the pass, it tends to be against Donald Butler. I know he's going to fill in, but I'd rather see Neville Hewitt, Jelani Jenkins, and even Spencer Paysinger out on the field before him. But hey, the pros definitely outweigh the cons in this game. On to L.A., where the Dolphins will stay in California for next week. Paul, anything else you'd like to add before we call it a day?
Yeah, actually, FinSide, or Rick from the Nova Dolphins Fans, actually threw a question our way, threw it to us, Armando, and Garfinkel actually today, which I thought was kind of neat. But I wanted to know what our prediction was for the Dolphins' final regular season record of the season. So I'll let you jump in on that first. I kind of already replied on Twitter, but I also want to give us a chance to put it out there on the air for those folks that listen that don't have Twitter or what have you. Just
looking at the rest of the schedule, I'll say this. I think they'll beat the Rams. I think they'll beat the 49ers. So right there, they're 7-4, which is insane to talk about. Then at Baltimore, Arizona at home, and at New York, I think they'll win 2 of those 3 games. So now you're at 9-5 headed into the final 2 games at Buffalo and against New England. Unfortunately, at that point, I think the Dolphins do lose to Buffalo, who I think has been a very, very tough team this year. I think they'd be right there with us, maybe even better if they had Sammy Watkins, which they'll probably have for this game. And then against New England, it's just a tough game to win on New Year's Day. So my final prediction is going to be 9-7.
For me, I look at it, and what I put out there today was 10-6, and I could very realistically see a scenario, and you gave a lot of the description for why, so I don't have to go too far into it. But I could very easily see scenarios where they're either 11-5 or 9-7. But the positive thing here is, no matter which prediction we're making right now, we are, barring a catastrophic failure down the stretch, looking at a record above 500, no matter which of the predictions we're looking at, which I think is absolutely phenomenal to be saying, especially after the way they started the year. In, let's face it, embarrassing fashion.
Yeah, and I think that is amazing to be able to talk about that. It'd be the first time since 2008 the Dolphins have been over 500, even if it's 9-7 and missing the playoffs. What really does take some of the sting off this weekend is the Raiders had a bye week. They stay at 7-2. The Broncos beat the Saints on that crazy last play where Parks had that blocked punt return for touchdown. Broncos get to 7-2. Chiefs get to 7-2 in a game that they had no business winning. They were down 17-3 in the fourth quarter, and the Panthers had the ball at the Chiefs' 18-yard line. I mean, it's embarrassing that they were able to give that game away, but it might take 11 wins for the Dolphins to make the playoffs. But regardless, if the Dolphins finish 9-7, 10-6, I'm going to be extremely hopeful for the future, especially given this is Adam Gase's first year.
Exactly. I definitely want to see that winning record. That's a huge measuring stick. The fact that the Dolphins are having fun on the field, the fact that they're making the plays, the fact that the past 2 games even, there has been some adversity at the end of the game, or towards the end of the game, that let's face it, the past several years, we'll go with several, if the Matt Dar botched snap occurred, Miami would have folded up against the Jets. If the officiating had been as bad as it was yesterday, Miami would have folded up against the Chargers. And there are points you can look at over this winning streak where Miami's essentially nutted up, got back out there, got after it, and found a way to make those difference-making plays. That's what winning teams do. That's what good teams do. That's the difference between a winning team and an average to mediocre, we pick 14th in the draft every year team is. And so that's great to see out there. Before we jump off here, Kat, one more thing I want to throw out is for anybody going to that MetLife takeover December 17th against the Jets, since we're talking about future games anyway, they did put out info this week. They're hoping to do a big tailgate. They need people to sign up. So if you're going to that game, go to Dolphins NYC's Facebook page, go to their website, dolphinsnyc.com, and let them know or follow up on that info for how to sign up for that tailgate, because it's a great time. It's nice not having to bring crap to the game, and they do a great job. They get stuff donated for the tailgate as well that they can add on top of it. Awesome stuff. Michelle and Igor and Brian and Alex, they all do a phenomenal job with this. So take a look at it. It's definitely great to do.
Yes, they certainly do. We're definitely big supporters of them here on the FinSide. And that'll do it for us here in this recap of the San Diego Chargers-Miami Dolphins matchup. On to LA for the next game, and if it's not on the left side and it's not on the right side, it is on the FinSide. Solo D, take us home.
It ain't the left side or the right side, then it must be the FinSide. Inside. It ain't the left side or the right side, then it must be the FinSide.
Listen, Dolphins fans across the land all tuning in to see what Brian, Cat, and Paul about to do again. We rep our team, you can't change, stop, or ruin it. All we need is to figure what to do to win. Fins Radio, live and direct. Win or lose, we're showing up for every contest. No puppet talk, it's all raw and unfiltered. Voice of the fans when the season looks peculiar. Rockin' aqua orange over here, then you familiar. Every week they coming through our speakers to fulfill the crave we have to hear about our team and all the latest news. Vets the rookies trying to make the team, paying dues. Current players and alumni interviews. City to city, state to state, follow the moves. Call the hotline, Dolphins talk set to go. Best sports team and show all across the globe.